Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. How is everyone doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Beige Page Thursday. Beige Page Thursday. You got to remember that if you don't know what I'm talking about. Just watch the last 2 minutes of yesterday afternoon's live stream. So, how are we doing? Waka Waka. Here, as always, very soft bottom. Looks like big bounce and a likely bigger draw. A little bounce. A little bounce. So where do we sit, Waka Waka? Where do we really sit? What percentage bounce? What percentage drop? Do we have any signals? What are we looking at? Good morning, Lauren. Good morning, Wavy. Looks like they'll try to jam it up this morning. Good morning, Mike. Oh boy, at least we all agree on a pop this morning. I got a short then. If we're all in agree, well, I don't know if it's going to pop. Good morning, Davey. Good morning, Amit. Is it safe to say we should be shorting all of the rips until we get a bigger pattern trigger? I err on the side of short. Now, remember, the next 2 days, I'm still prepared for more tactical trading because we have options expiration tomorrow. And we have that big area at 4,000, both for puts and calls. So we could still see some interesting price action through tomorrow. The interest makes me go all into calls. Well, there you got Rich going all into calls. Oh boy, everybody's a little bullish this morning. Good morning, Sashi. Gray page Thursday, my favorite kind of look. We don't have a gray page over here, and you should always be subscribing to this channel, ringing that bell, and hitting the like button. Longer term viewers, please do come back, leave some comments, and like the videos. I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave some comments. See, there we go. Gray page Thursday. It's still there. Economic calendar, by the way. Let's get on to things, because I've been running it a little tight with the opens. Initial jobless claim, slight miss, but nothing there. Here's what I was looking. Fed manufacturing index, big potential slowdown. Still above zero, but big potential slowdown. Huge miss there. Prices paid, not as bad as prior, but still very high. So the business conditions also dropping drastically. So get this, just again, I'm not talking about just today with the markets. We're definitely going into that recessionary period sooner rather than later. It'll be interesting to see in about 55 minutes the Consumer Board's leading index to see where that stands in relation to 0.3% and how much existing home sales are going to drop. Other than that, not much going on for the rest of today. Just a reminder from yesterday. See, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. See, I told you gray page Thursday. That wasn't even planned. Fed watch still at that 50 basis points. So that's where we sit. By the way, earnings out today. I was looking at Kohl's, and we can peek at that if you want, because it did trigger a horizontal channel breakdown yesterday, and then earnings just reinforced it today. So do we have as Waka Waka said, a soft bottom? Coming back down here, we had the harmonic levels from last night. Coming right down here with some divergence. Got minor divergence there. I'll agree if we break above about 3,900 on the open, we could be then going back to test the about 39.11 to 39.14 with the 1 hour rotation zone. So I would be watching for a little pop there. We are pretty oversold. 4 hour cycles turning up. If we get above this little area on the 1 hour, then I'm targeting got a lot in here. If we get above this, really the 39.18, 39.19, then I'm going up towards about 39.30. So that's what I'm focused on the open. Now, if we start breaking, here's where with the tactical trading, I don't like to use these short-term levels, but you got right here with this little spike. So you had the run up, okay, this morning in late European morning session. coming back down to 50 to 62.5 and rotating back up. What would take me back into another retest of the lows below about 38.72. So that's what I'm keying off the open. Now, from a bigger perspective, just want to touch on what would get me out of tactical mode and into a multi-day, at least potential bullish mode. We get the move above 40.95 because we do have a potential double bottom. Okay, that's the only thing that takes me into a multi-day bearish mode. Could that theoretically happen in one day? Yeah, but that's the only kind. Until then, I'm still in tactical mode, especially with OpX coming tomorrow. By the way, on this sell-off from the highs from yesterday, on an even stronger rally, the 50% area, which I would, if we really got one of those rip your face off rallies, 39.66. And interesting enough, the 62.5 coming in at 4,005. So could we easily revisit these levels by tomorrow? Yes, we could. So I am definitely watching for that to happen, and that would take us back to the daily rotation zone. And then we have that nice longer-term double pattern. And I already said what would cause me to, again, turn short-term bearish until I watch for another bottoming pattern on a short-term basis if we did break down and retest the lows today. So that's how I'm breaking it down. NASDAQ, we also do have the potential. NASDAQ getting the stronger bounce into the open. NASDAQ also, what now? I'm just watching the break above. I just want to take a look at a couple things from this little retracement area. We're stalling out. See, we've already tested 62.5. So a break above 11,860, then, and especially a close on at least a 15-minute basis, then I'm targeting the most recent high area of 11,923 to 11,953. What invalidates that? Because you also, when you're coming up with a game plan, you have to know what would invalidate that. The thing that really invalidates, I'll get worried if we break below these dual lows, but what really invalidates is a 11,762, a close below that. And here's the end. This is an advanced clear path move. Roughly targets coming in at about 11,938 to this 11,928, and we have a harmonic and the 1 hour rotation zone. So definitely focusing on that. Above that, then I'll focus on 11,982. Okay, then above that, I'll probably do some more harmonic projections, but then around 12,037 and look for harmonic clusters. All right, if we do break down, the next level lower is 11,576, and the potential double also in the NASDAQ would still be in play. Now, longer term, what makes me at least a bit more bullish than a short-term squishy bottom would be 12,594. Then we'd actually nearly get the rotation zone. So if we actually rally a bit going into option expiration and take this out next week, then we might have a little reversal play for a shortish to medium term-ish. I didn't give the levels lower for the S&P. If it does break down, I want to leave those on. This is where we didn't make a new low, so I got to go with reverse harmonics here. If we did break down below these lows, we now have a cluster at 38.22 and 37.95. Your bigger levels, you got to use the more recent swing. If we just had a market rout again, not expecting it, but you have to prepare for anything in these markets, I'd then go to 37.58. Back to the Dow. Again, we also have a potential coming back down to that harmonic. You see the harmonics work really nice overnight. Break above about 31,225 area. Then I'm targeting 31,385 with the 1 hour rotation zone. You start getting above there. We got a lot of resistance there. I'll just target about the 4 hour rotation zone, about 31,505, and use harmonics to fine tune it on a breakdown. Looking at anywhere from about 30,795, 30,744, and then major clusters is about 30,440. So that's where we're looking at that. Again, potential double on the Dow, not expecting it to trigger today. If we did get the stronger rally, just remember your 50 to 62.5, and that's for today and tomorrow. Russell, no potential double, just trying to reverse right here. There's not been a lot of great trading in the Russell, but I will target about 1788. If we do get a move on, then about 1805 above that. The DAX, back in the channel, sort of in no man's land again, rejected back in the channel. Remember, weekly, just to keep it in perspective, spiking into a weekly rotation zone and still rotating back down. Really interesting to see where the DAX closes this week. If we do break, again, not just for today, but below 13,690, then back to targeting 13,477. A rally up. I'll see if it, let's see, shorter term. I'm just going to be keying off this 13.9. Crude, a little short-term close. We got a little conflicting signals. Again, the double, potential double, which never triggered, off the table. Stair-stepping down, close below the 62.5 on the 1 hour and the 4 hour basis. So really, we're in no man's land on crude with no strong position, no strong pattern. So what now? I'm watching for the continued pullback if we break below 133.37, and I'm not doing anything with crude from the long side until we get above 109. Gold looks like we're putting in that little reversal pattern. We did not pull back enough to get the double, but now I'm really watching to see how we target between 1865 and 1868 with this strong move up. Also, silver, watching for this break now above 22.04, and then I'm targeting 22.50. Notes, reversal at that 50 to 62 did not pull back enough to get us a double, but this, remember, just to reiterate, you first test, and this holds for the rotation zones. We got the first test of the weekly. We pulled back a little reaction, and now we're rotating back up. I had these harmonics on for earlier. We're closing in on 2011. Next area I'm really focused on is about 2025 to about 2022. I'm now looking for an intermediate term bottom with a rally into an advanced clear path. So what my longer term, it looks like we have an intermediate bottom put in, and I'm really focused now on the return to 123, 123.04 area. Dollar index, we got that little pause yesterday, could not get much of a bounce, sitting at the daily rotation zone. I'm still now watching for the pullback to 120.04 to 101.79 area, which takes us back in connection with the weekly rotation zone. And I'm watching for an intermediate term top being put in the dollar index. Mentioned we are watching for that top pattern, and now it looks like that top pattern is going to be in. So I'm watching for the reconnection with the rotation zone. Let's see. So, call bears maybe smoke today. Don't think the worst is behind us yet, fellas. That's why I'm, for intermediate term patterns, I'm still holding off until I get something trigger. Again, don't try to call tops or bottoms in this market. Wait for high probability patterns and put the odds in your favor. Hello, Christoph. Amit is neutral. I'm just kidding, new low today. So Rich was kidding about the new highs. He's back to new lows. Can you cover what we should look looking for on the SPY? On the SPY, I'm watching here on the SPY for the little, I'm watching for any gap fill play, a little minor gap fill play. So for today is the gap fill play on the SPY. It is in double bottom territory. If we roll, I mean, the next harmonic down was about 388.22. It's already tested just slower than that, slightly around that area with the pre-market. Watching for the gap fill play, And then if we roll over, I'd watch for a retest. You do have enough. So for longer term, we do have enough for a potential double bottom. I'm doing it with the aggressive double targets. And I will shift, once we know that this bottom's potentially in, I will shift it to the conservative targets. If you're playing it, if you do the gap fill and then you want to keep going to the upside, 394 and then 396.85 area. I just use the harmonics climbing the ladder back up at this point. So we've already tested virtually pre-market this lower area with that close below the 62.5. So I'd be watching for that bounce. If it does roll over, I'd be watching for the support there. If we go to new lows, then I would not be... we could still make some new lows and keep the double in place. Keep that in mind. But your harmonic areas, you have the retracement harmonics from the big move. That's this big blue line. And you have the projection harmonics. So I'd be using 382.22. So those are your levels on the spiders. We'll get to the Qs also. You think that's today, Rich? 3,500? You think we're going to 3,500 today or when? Good morning. Could check gold 1 hour? Let me do gold 1 hour, then we'll jump back to the Qs. Gold 1 hour. Gold 1 hour, I'd watch right now. We just broke above 1839. So any pullback to about 1839.40 is a key area to watch for support. You're into, that's not a great move on the, it's a clear path on the 4 hour. So your targets on the 4 hour would be up towards this 1864 and 1864. Just do a little more analysis since we got a request for gold in here. You're sitting against that harmonic. So 1864 minor, I'd use 1853 to move up a stop because we already hit this harmonic. This area I'd move up a stop, then the full target would be about 1864. What would invalidate this? Again, you got to go right now. I'm going after this, but if you make some new highs, you see this 62.5, you're going to run or ratchet this up as it makes some new highs, but you got this key support and the 62.5, so 1812. As long as you don't get the close below 1812, it now stays in very short-term bullish. You might get a little rollover. If the market rallies, you might get a rollover in here into the open. But again, you've broken some key resistance with the rising 1 hour rotation zone, so that's what I pay attention to. Now let me get to the Qs. Qs. Oh boy, what did I take? I didn't want that level. Holding nicely with the harmonics yesterday. I'm going just with the reverse harmonics off the open for the Qs. Again, pre-market, what was the next level? 287, 289. We're trading pre-market. First thing would be the gap fill, and then my targets, the upside 293.19 and 295.75. Above there would be 298.61. On a breakdown, 287.65, and then if we break below that, I watch for a retest of the lows. You do have the potential double also in place here. I got to use the conservative until we know the aggressive until we know the conservative targets are in place. But that's not, that's not for today. This is, we'd have to have a wild rally to trigger that off today. If we did break below new lows, 282.24, 279.53. Again, the first thing is going to be this gap fill. By the way, the gap fill is to the close of yesterday. Don't make the mistake of going to this little open area, which would be 291.09. So there's good morning options. So there's your Qs levels. you know, it's still interesting with all this weekly at the bottom. That's why next week we could trigger these doubles. Daily at the top, we don't have a lot of confluence. We're trying to put in a bottom here, and we have options expiration. I keep saying this tomorrow because you can get some very interesting trading, especially with some of this major call and put volume relatively close. So I've got to be very tactile the next 2 days. Yeah, that they they were already liquidating prior to that. There was a final liquidation yesterday, but that's pretty much done. When you announce a shutdown, it's already pretty much finishing its liquidation. It's done. So that won't fuel anything today. Cisco upgraded after you gotta love it. Well, Tesla, what was downgraded to 1,000 from 1,400 based off China weakness. I mean, that's just what's so funny. Let's peek in. This is why I can't stand analysts. You know, and all right, let's just pretend, let's just pretend Tesla heads towards 500, as we've talked about. You know what? Then they'll slash, even on rallies, they'll slash Tesla from 1,000 to 900 to 800. They'll just trail it all the way down until, you know, they'll get down to something like, let's see if Tesla goes to 400, then they'll downgrade it to 500, then it'll bounce to 500 and say, see, it hit my target. I can't stand these guys. You know, it's not tradable information. It's not tradable. So Tesla, there might be a small little minute gap play. Watching, again, this is going to key off the market and anything Elon happens to tweet. You do have a potential double, but it's you'd have to have rip your face off rally to trigger that today. Again, on any rallies back into the daily rotation zone, just watching for the next rollover play. Really interested to see how it reacts down here. We did close below at 62.5. Wanting to see, statistically, we should still favor at least a test of 693 to the 680 area. We might actually flatten out that gap fill on any rally. First resistance, I'm watching 720. Then I'm going to 733. So that's what's interesting. You want the VIX. The VIX slightly up pre-market, but we closed yesterday above the 62.5. So still statistically favors a little up move. We're in a whole bunch of mixed messages. That's the problem. You know, he cycles at the top, cycles at the bottom, potential short-term bullish, longer term we're still in bearish. It's just very interesting. So sometimes if you don't have any, for me, there's only quick plays or sit on hands if there's nothing that pans out. Sure, looks like pop and dump throughout the day. It could be one of those, you know, those choppy back and forth days. Also, going into option expiration because we had the trend day yesterday, and by choppy back and forth days, that's when you get days like this. Remember back from the 12th of May or from the 16th of May where it's just a mess back and forth trading. So that's more, if I had to guess, what I'd be leaning to off the open. Can we check Netflix real quick? Then I got to jump. Netflix, I mean, longer term, I'd said I'm watching for a longer term bottom. There's just not some great patterns. If the market rallies, I'd just be focusing on about a return to this 181.33, 183.29. If we dump, we still have a gap fill left behind, and if we start selling off, then I'd watch for the gap fill to 174.25. Again, it's back in. Let me pull off this other level real quick. So you see on this last little run up, we're between the 50 and the 62. No close below 62. If you get the gap fill, then we've closed below 62. Then I target the lower prices again and a return to this area. If we hold up here, this is a key rotation area, but I wouldn't get overly bullish until you get above 183.43. Yeah, I do use the put call ratio when it gets to extremes. I take it with a grain of salt when we get into right before options expiration, though. Yeah, we are at extreme fear right now. Again, you can still remain in fear. That's why if we trigger one of these bottoming patterns, I will be at least short to medium term bullish, but we're a long way off from trading those. Let's see. Well, it's a potential double bottom, Rich. Remember, you can have lots of potentials without. You have potentials. Don't mix this up. Why do I put this on the chart? Does this ever have to trigger? No. Will it trigger today? No. But there's people who don't tune in to every live stream, so I'm putting this on there. Can it break down and invalidate this before it ever triggers? Yes. Okay, that's what you got to keep in mind. You got to still analyze both sides, otherwise you get caught. Like off your 5 minute, then I got to jump for the open. But what, I mean, this is actually, let me just see on the 15 minute. For example, it's not completely valid. It's not really valid on this time frame, but let's just pretend it was. If we broke down below this lows and this was a valid double, it's not because this exceeds the move. So good. Does this ever have to trigger? No. Could it be invalidated in a few minutes? Yes. But it's, why do I put it on? Because now let's just pretend this was valid. I'd have a game plan for a break below 38.7225. If it never triggers, there's no plan for me. So just keep that in mind. All right, with that, I got to wrap it up. I will talk to everyone later. Paul will have to do NVIDIA. Oh, let me just look, since we don't have a lot of momentum off the open just yet. NVIDIA is just holding at this harmonic. We've got the pullback, it looks like. Holding at that 50% level. As long as you don't, if you break below 166.14, then I would target the gap fill. Break below here, target the gap fill. Other than that, I don't have any great setups. It's at the area rotation, but we need a stronger NASDAQ to actually, and I'm so bearish on semis. Anything would just be a pop back into the upper end of the rotation zone and back to 183.50. With that, I'm going to wrap it up, everyone. I will chat with you this afternoon unless we have something major happen at like in the morning going into lunch. Thanks for joining. Please come back, leave some comments when you're done, when it settles down this morning, and I'll talk to everyone. Technically, that's when you can exercise up to. I mean, you can trade them through tomorrow. You can exercise them up until Saturday, Rich. So once the market closes, you can still exercise after the close, but you can't trade them anymore. Talk to everyone later. Bye.